All right. We're going to get started. I'm going to call this meeting to order. It's the regular meeting of the Hamilton County Board of County Commissioners, April 16th, 2020. It's our second virtual meeting as we work our way through the COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you, everybody, for being so flexible, and thank you for our media team for getting us all hooked up here. I'm not going to do introductions because you can see people on the screen and the names associated with the people that are on the call. We'll start, as we always do, with silent prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. And once again, I will ask that we our prayers for those who have been lost in Hamilton County, especially to COVID-19. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States
of America, and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'm going to move that we approve of the minutes of the previous session.
Second.
Commissioner Driehaus?
Yes.
Commissioner Samaradumas?
Yes.
Commissioner Parks?
Yes.
Thank you. To my knowledge, we don't have any public comments. Jackie, is that correct?
That is correct, ma'am.
Thank you. Just a reminder for anybody that might be watching, we welcome public comments via email, I guess, or regular mail, and we're the record as we continue to do these virtual meetings. So with that, we'll move into comments and motions from the commissioners. Vice President Samaradumas.
Thank you, Madam President. Just a few comments. Just really, I want to reiterate on my elation that we've been able to provide monies for the homeless and also for domestic violence people that need to go into different housing on emergencies. So after I had finished my conference call with Senator Brown last week, I immediately got a call from Gregory Johnson of CMHA, who wanted to provide vouchers for the domestic violence families that were in need of housing. And he is working with Kevin Finn and also to provide at least 20 vouchers for housing, which those vouchers can be used anywhere in the United States. So I also want to talk about, I've gotten numerous calls from relatives of those that are in the correctional facilities. So I assigned my chief of staff to work with those individuals and to see how we can possibly provide help and assistance. As we know, the governor is very attuned to the prison situation and what's going on. But in addition, I just want to let everyone know that's been calling. We've been overwhelmed with calls, which is understandable, that we hear the cries of the people in the land, and that our office will do all that we can do to help and assist you. You may not hear back directly, but if you see changes taking place, it's because we've heard your cries, and we are seeking out the resources necessary to get those issues taken care of. So we appreciate you reaching out to our office. And also for those who are listening or watching both, just want to let you know, as we look at the budget and how we can take the 20% cut off our general funding, that my office actually has 3 staff, including myself. My secretary to the board will be on a temporary furlough, which will leave myself and the chief of staff to continue to work as hard and even harder for all of those in the community. And so we will continue to do what we're doing, and also to be part of the solution. I have voluntarily agreed, along with the other commissioners, to reduce my salary by 10% to help out as much as we can. So that will end my report, Madam President.
Thank you. Commissioner Parks?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hi there. I just want to express my appreciation to the soldiers that are still in the field. This thing is really difficult, and we just don't know what's next. And so I want to express my appreciation, my admiration, because this takes courage and tenacity. So I just want to say that. And also, I look forward to coming in tomorrow morning to our 3-day-a-week briefing. And that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate that. We'll look forward to that. So I too want to thank the people working on the front lines, medical professionals, first responders, and also our employees, because as you all know, the strategies to reduce our expenses are underway. They are tailored department by department, and so some of it is relative to restricted funds, some of it's pay cuts, as was alluded to, and some of it's furloughs, as also was alluded to. And so thank you to our employees for hanging in there. This has been a very difficult time, and we are all under a lot of stress right now related to our budget and a potential 20% reduction. That said, we're working like crazy to try to get some relief from the federal budget and the federal the bills that are rolling through. As you all know, the CARES Act, which is already passed, did not give us the flexibility to use for any revenue replacement, or in other words, for our general fund and to help out with these personnel issues. And so while that is challenging, because there are some dollars there, they just can't be used for this purpose. We are hopeful that maybe in the next iteration, we will be provided some relief along with the city of Cincinnati and other cities and counties throughout the country. So we have been working diligently at the federal level. I know both of you have as well, my fellow commissioners. We've talked to Senator Portman and Senator Brown. We have reached out to Representative Shabbat and Representative Wenstrup. We have also talked to our colleagues in Kentucky who may be a little bit closer to Mitch McConnell than we are, since they live in Kentucky. And so I had a conversation with a couple of the judge executives yesterday, trying to get a better understanding from them on what they see happening, so specifically Chris Knockelman and Gary Moore. And so we just collectively are trying to make sure that the federal government understands the strain on both the county and the city budgets, and are hopeful that they will respond in kind and provide some relief there. So ongoing work, and more to come on that. We hope federal legislation will move fairly quickly. Don't know that, never know that, but I know that we're all working hard to try to make that happen. So that ends my comments. Administrator Aludo.
Thank you, Madam President. One comment and then several by-leaves today. The comment just relates, I do want to, we've had both public health and EMA in multiple times to talk about what's going on with the state of the coronavirus and COVID-19 crisis. I did just want to today really thank, in particular, EMA that continues just to do great work on behalf of the entire county, not just in the normal coordination work that they do, but also in terms of resource management and making sure that those who are in need of resources are getting them. As of today, I know that EMA has distributed 19,000 N95 masks and over 41,000 surgical masks to approximately 114 organizations throughout the county, and that's whether it's departments or hospitals, fire departments, police departments, human services agencies, or other agencies like SORTA, Free Store Food Bank, the YWCA. EMA is really looked at as a resource for this. And I just want to thank Nick Crosley, our EMA director, and all of his staff for all the great work they're doing there. So I know the commissioners are well tied into that, but I just wanted to take this opportunity to publicly thank Nick and his team for everything that they're doing. That concludes my comment. I do have multiple by-leaves today that we are now regularly including at the end of our agenda. I'm happy to walk through those one by one if this is where you'd like to take those up, Madam President.
Yeah, I think so. That makes sense.
Okay. The first item that's before you is By leave 1, this is a resolution accepting the lowest and best bid for the bank's Phase 3B public infrastructure development project. This is the parking garage, street grid, and also this particular bid package relates to the park on top of the garage on lot 23. The resolution before you today only awards trade contract 10, which is the $2.4 million portion of this. When the city is prepared to execute on trade contract 9, the county will do so simultaneously, and both bid packages will ultimately become one contract. But today, the resolution that the board is doing authorizes bid package 6, specifically authorizes the implementation of trade contract 10, which is the $2.4 million contract, which is related to the finishing up of the garage underneath lot 23. It relates to some signage and cameras within that garage. And it's really important that we get that work done because we have a state grant of $12 million that we have to spend by June, and a significant portion of this project comes from those funds. Phil Beck is also on the line today, and I defer to Phil if there's any specific details, or of course, be happy to answer any questions from the commission.
All right, so to be clear then, we are moving on one of these items, the 2.4, and as Jeff says, a lot of this is related to the state capital dollars that we've received in the past for the infrastructure that allows the development to move forward at the banks. And we've built out almost all of it at this point, but this money has to be spent. It's a part of a capital budget request that we had a number of years ago, and the due date is June. So that's part of the funding source here. Some of it's also rollover dollars from other development, and there's a little bit of parking revenue here too. But it is this collection of funding sources to finish out the parking garage that has been built. These are the final pieces of that, and then Phil, am I correct that we will be finished with this particular parking garage and that infrastructure?
Yes, Madam President, you are correct. Just wanted to also add, as part of this trade contract 10 scope is waterproofing for the roof of the county's garage, which also is necessary to create that layer between the garage below and the park up above. So that is an essential element to opening up the garage below to the public.
Thank you. Are there questions or comments from the commissioners?
Madam President, just wanted to make a comment. As you were saying earlier, the monies are already allocated. We just have to approve them, and none of them come out of the general fund for basic services.
Correct.
Because I know people are wondering, how can they do that? And it's a total different funding source.
Yep.
Commissioner
Parks?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Madam President, just on that same note, just to tag on to that, even the trade contract 9 that we are not specifically awarding today, I just want to make clear, that's the bigger of the two that make up this entire package. That is $6.5 million. That is a pass-through from Cincinnati Parks, so that is not county funds either, although we did procure the trade contract on behalf of the city and parks, and that's why we ultimately need the city's approval in order to move forward with that portion.
And Jeff, could you just to elaborate just a little on that? I know those conversations are ongoing, and so we are hopeful to have some agreement here within the near future, and we'll both move together, as you say, on that item.
That's correct.
Commissioner Parks, any comments or questions?
No comments. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so the resolution then that we have in front of us it allows us to pass the smaller number, the 2.4, as I said, for finishing out the parking garage. And so this is a resolution you all should have just gotten fairly recently that kind of bifurcates these two things. So I'm going to ask that we approve of the resolution accepting lowest and best bid for the bank's Phase 3B Public Infrastructure Development Parking Garage and Street Grid Bid Package Number 6, TC09, Lot 23 Park, and TC-10, Lot 2327 General Trades.
Second.
Jackie,
Dreehouse?
there we go. Yes,
I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Am I unmuted or muted?
you're good.
Okay. Commissioner Dreehouse?
Yes.
Commissioner Summer Dumas?
Yes.
Commissioner Parks?
Yes.
Thank you, commissioners. Next on your agenda, you have by leave items 2, 3, 4, and 5. By leave items 2, 3, 4, and 5. These have been held in past weeks. We are continuing to hold these. We wanted to place these on the agenda just to make sure that they were visible and transparent. We are still working within the context of the stadium fund to assess at the board's request the status of that fund, our ability to fund various capital projects, et cetera. There are bid award deadlines associated with these in early May. So we'll want to dispose of these positively or negatively, one way or the other, by that time. But I do recognize that the commission is looking for some additional information on this. We're working on pulling that together, and we'll report back in a consolidated way on the strategy with these projects.
Thank you, Jeff. And I also want to say that I know you have reached out to both the Bengals and the Reds related to these items because we don't want to be in a position where we are spending down that sales tax fund dedicated to the stadiums unless we have to. Because we have quite a bit of uncertainty in that fund as well as our general fund. So thank you for pulling together the information to give us kind of the broader picture of where we sit in that sales tax fund and how these items relate to that, if they're really a huge drain on that or if these are much smaller items. And when you look at them, and I just do want to say that they're kind of nuts and bolts infrastructure projects for the most part. So we'll look forward to getting that report from the administrator. My recommendation here is that we hold this for 2 weeks when I feel like we'll be ready to act on them. I hate to see these things just keep rolling up week after week and we're just holding. So my recommendation is that we hold this for 2 weeks, make sure we've got the information and we're ready to act at that point in time. So Commissioners Summer Dumas and Commissioner Parks, any comments or questions?
That sounds fine to wait for 2 weeks.
Thank you.
That's good by me. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. So in that case, we will hold by leave items 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Okay. The next is by leave item 6. This is a resolution approving and authorizing an amendment to the 2019 annual action plan for community development. So in order to receive the additional emergency solutions grant dollars that we are getting under the CARES Act, we're required to submit an amendment to our 2019 action plan. So this amendment will allocate the entire amount of the just north of $1 million to strategies to end homelessness. And as the board will recall from our conversation last week, $500,000 of that is for temporary shelter, with the remaining or with $433,000 and some change for services to end homelessness, such as rapid rehousing, shelter diversion, temporary shelter, et cetera. And then there is administrative costs on top of that of approximately $75,000. You might recall that community development did need to post this for 5 days, and that there was a 5-day notice period. Otherwise, we would have done this last week. So this is the 5-day notice period has now expired. I believe Joy Pearson is on the line. So I don't know if the board has any questions. I believe either myself or certainly Joy would be able to answer.
I don't have any questions. We talked about this one last time. This, though, by leave 6 and by leave 9 also deals with the agreement with strategies. So Jeff, can you speak to item 9 real quick as well?
Sure. 9 is just the resolution authorizing the amendment to the existing agreement with strategies for the additional funds that we're going to receive through the Emergency Solutions Grant. So the amendment is in the amount of $1.009 million, with $500,000 of that being available for the emergency shelter. And of course, that's in addition to the other $600,000 that we allocated from the senior services levy balance, which we ultimately hope will be reimbursed and replaced by CARES Act funding, which is the federal stimulus grant passed specifically for COVID-19 purposes.
Great. So let's take these two together. Are there any comments or questions?
No comments or questions.
Nothing. Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to move that we approve of item number 6, the resolution approving and authorizing filing of an amendment to FY 2019 action plan.
Second.
You are unmuted. Commissioner Dreehouse?
Yes?
Commissioner Summer Dumas?
Yes.
Commissioner Parks?
Yes.
And I'm also going to move that we approve the resolution authorizing the county administrator to enter into an amendment to the sub-recipient agreement with Strategies to End Homelessness in the amount of $1,009,176.
Second.
Commissioner Dreehouse?
Yes.
Commissioner Summer Dumas?
Yes.
Commissioner Parks?
Yes.
Thank you. Hey, Michael Friedman, did I need to make a motion related to items 2, 3, 4, and 5, or can we hold them without a motion?
You can hold them without a motion.
Very good. All right, just trying to keep on the straight and narrow here, Michael. All right, item number 7 is an MSD item. We've got Diana Christie and Jack Rennekamp with us. Jeff, do you have any precursor to this one?
No, only that I believe this is a bridge project, so that's the need to bring it forward on the by-leave agenda, so I'll turn it over to Director Christie.
Thank you. Director.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm actually going to defer to Jack to give you the overview of this project, and then I'm available as well as Ryan Welsh is on, I think, just with audio only, chief engineer, in case there are more specific questions that need to be answered. So, Jack, take it away.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Jack Rennekamp with MSD. So the Columbia Square Development Separation Project, Sanitary Sewer 6864, is a request to the board to appropriate $2 million in construction funding. And it is a consent decree bridge project with a defined end date in the decree of December 31, 2020. The project is intended to separate stormwater flows from the Columbia Square development that are currently conveyed to a combined sewer that's tributary to CSO 469. And the storm sewer that will be constructed as part of the project improvement for MSD will reduce the remaining overflow volume to CSO 469 during a typical year by an estimated 3 million gallons. And these overflows will be redirected to the CSO 469 outfall pipe located in Rakestraw Memorial Field, which is tributary to the Ohio River. So one of the reasons that MSD is requesting funding at this point in time is due to the Ohio River pool level. The normal pool level, which occurs roughly between August and October, and construction is anticipated to start on this project in July, is at sufficient levels that it won't cause inconvenience to the contractor who is selected through public bidding to perform the work. Anytime after that point in time, the pool level increases by about 3 feet, and it would make it more difficult for a contractor to work in those conditions. If you have any additional questions concerning the project, as Director Christie said, Deputy Director Welsh is also available.
Thank you, Jack. Karen Ball is also on the line. Karen, do you have anything to add?
No, the county agrees that this should move forward as a bridge project, keep it on schedule and try to get it completed during the drier seasons and pool level stage.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments related to this item, Commissioners?
No questions, no comments.
No questions. Thank you.
All right, and thank you, Ryan, for being on the call. Looks like we don't have any questions for you. So I am going to move that we approve of the resolution approving the detailed plans, specifications, estimate of cost, and or other relevant documents declaring the necessity to construct, determining to proceed with capital improvement program appropriation, and authorizing the city manager to advertise for bids.
Second.
Commissioner Dreehouse?
Yes.
Commissioner Summer Dumas?
Yes.
Commissioner Parks?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
All right, thank you all for being on the line. I think that's the only, am I correct? That's the only MSD item we have?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. All right, Jeff, moving on to by leave item number 8.
Item number 8, this is just a resolution to extend the current declared state of emergency related to COVID-19 for an additional 60 days. Just to, as we all know, the crisis does continue, and this allows the board to extend this emergency formally to continue to, from a messaging perspective, but also just in terms of taking advantage of the different flexibilities within the Ohio Revised Code relating to procurement and the ability to continue to recoup dollars from the state and federal government as they become available.
All right, thank you. Yeah, the reason to extend is the same reason we had to put it in place to begin with. So any comments or questions related to this?
Just a question, Madam President. I had on my notes a 30-day extension, and I think Jeff said a 60-day unless there was a revision to 60.
Yes, Madam President, Madam Commissioner, yes, there was a change to this
Okay.
yesterday or this morning, just as we look out into the horizon, realizing
Sure.
30 days is probably not going to be sufficient. Be on the downward course of the health curve at that point, but
Sure.
the ramifications will be continuing. So we thought we'd make it 60 days and revisit that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Parks?
Go ahead.
Thank you.
No questions.
All right. I'm going to move that we approve of the Hamilton County Board of Commissioners declaration of state of emergency due to COVID-19, and the extension is for another 60 days.
Second.
Commissioner Dreehouse?
Yes.
Commissioner Summer Dumas?
Yes.
Commissioner Parks?
Yes.
All right. We're moving to by leave number 10.
Item number 10, so as you referenced earlier, Madam President, we've been lobbying for flexibility in terms of our ability to use the funding that is coming to us through the CARES Act. The CARES Act portal through the Department of Treasury has opened, and the deadline for applying for the funds that we are eligible for as a direct allocation, because we are a community of greater than 500,000. That portal is open. The deadline for applying is 11:59 p.m. on Friday. So we need to move to get all of our administrative information in. It really doesn't require any programmatic information at this point. It's just setting up the account so the Treasury can send us the dollars. One of the things that has to be done is the chief executive, the administrator, et cetera, of the local government needs to sign a certification indicating that the organization will spend the dollars in accordance with the federal legislation, which includes things like using it to respond directly to the COVID-19 crisis, using it that it not be an expenditure that was included in the most recent budget of the local government organization. And there's also some timing constraints that it needs to be dollars spent between March 1st of this year and December 31st of this year. So in order to sign off on that, given that we're likely talking about significant dollars, and my authority goes up to $250,000 under this particular declared emergency, I will need a board resolution in order to do that. And that is what by leave item 10 does, is authorize me to sign that certification on behalf of the board. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
No questions, no comments.
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. In that case, I'm going to move that we approve the resolution authorizing the Hamilton County Administrator to take all necessary steps to request relief through the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, the CARES Act. So move.
Second.
Commissioner Dreehouse?
Yes.
Commissioner Summer Dumas?
Yes.
Commissioner Parks?
Yes.
Thank you.
We'll turn by leave 11 over to Madam President. I believe this is your item.
Yes, thank you. So this is the late addition to the agenda, by leave number 11. It's a motion establishing policy direction for the CARES Act funds. And so as we have discussed this item and tried to get a better understanding from the Department of Treasury as to what these dollars can be used for, I thought it might be useful for the three commissioners to provide some policy direction to the administrator as we move through this process. And And so that's what this motion is intended to do. I did circulate this yesterday. I know my chief of staff has spoken with both of your offices. So I'm going to read it's weird because we're virtual and so people can't hold this in their hands, but I'm going to read through just a little bit of this to provide some clarity as to what we're doing, if you'll give me that indulgence. And then I will move to approve of this. So this talks about the CARES Act and that the parameters around it. Really, it's kind of like the restrictions around it. So the expenditures are necessary expenditures incurred due to the public health emergency. Were not accounted for in the budget most recently approved of this board and were incurred between March 1st and December 30th of 2020. So those are the restrictions around the money. And so given that, we wanted to say, all right, we can't use it for revenue replacement, which I think we all agree is unfortunate. However, this is a significant amount of funding. And so we wanted to make sure that we are behaving in a way that is, we're very open to some of the expenses that have been incurred throughout Hamilton County, particularly by the local jurisdictions, the 49 jurisdictions in the county. So I'll continue to read. All right, so whereas the federal government has passed these dollars, we're awaiting additional guidance. As Jeff said, the deadline is Friday to get in the queue. Now, therefore, we move that the Board of County Commissioners directs the county administrator to develop recommendations under 3 funding scenarios. So, so we're still waiting for some guidance. I still hold out hope. I'm not overly optimistic, by the way. But there are 3 different scenarios. One is that we can use this money to supplement the general fund. So that's one. The other one is we can only use part of it, say 50%. For the general fund. And then the other scenario is the most likely, which is we can't use any of it for the general fund. And then what does that look like? So that's kind of the baseline and the starting point. And then it says under any of these 3 scenarios described above, the administrator's recommendation should reflect the policy directives of the Board of Commissioners, those being preserving critical government services during COVID-19 emergency for both Hamilton County and the 49 jurisdictions inside Hamilton County. That would include, of course, the city of Cincinnati. Supporting first responders and our healthcare systems with logistical support and supplies, including PPP, the personal protective equipment. Increasing Hamilton County's capacity to support vulnerable populations, both internally and in partnership with human services organizations, so similar to what we just did with strategies. And then support for small and medium-sized businesses as we start to get a better understanding of what that might look like. I want to make sure that we have the ability to help if that is possible with these dollars. So that is the purpose of the document, simply to provide some policy directive to the administrator as we move through, getting in the queue for these dollars and how we might have the ability to help during this crisis, not only for Hamilton County, but also for the jurisdictions that reside in Hamilton County and some of the other folks that are doing the frontline work. So please, questions and comments from my colleagues related to the motion.
Thank you, Madam President. Considering the enormity of the allocation, I think it's great that we provided direction to the administrator. So I'm in agreement with it for sure.
Thank you. Commissioner Parks.
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. So, we may see over $100 million here. It's a tremendous amount of money. The challenge is the restrictions. And so everything will have to be well vetted to make sure, because the last thing we want to do is apply dollars to something and not have it qualify. And we cannot afford to make those kinds of mistakes. And so everything will be thoroughly vetted by staff. So Jeff, thank you for helping with the direction here. We just wanted to put pen to paper and make sure that we're all on the same page. So if there are no more comments or questions, I'm going to move that we approve of the motion establishing policy direction for federal CARES Act funds.
Second.
Commissioner Dreehouse?
Yes.
Commissioner Summer Dumas?
Yes.
Commissioner Parks?
Yes.
Thank you. Jeff, from my read, that is the end of the by leaves.
That concludes my by leaves. Thank you, Madam President.
Very good. All right, we have no regular agenda items. We've got all consent agenda items. My understanding is number 16 has been pulled, just for your information. And so that leaves us with items 1 through 19, accepting 16. Are there any comments or questions related to any of the consent agenda items?
No comments.
No comments. Thank you.
All right. In that case, I'm going to move that we approve of consent agenda items 1 through 15 and 17 through 19.
Second.
Commissioner Dreehouse?
Yes.
Commissioner Summer Dumas?
Yes.
Commissioner Parks?
Yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner, might I have you move back to approve the minutes of the previous session? I don't have in my notes that has happened.
I think we did, but I'm happy to do it again. So I'll move that we approve of the minutes of the previous session.
Second.
Commissioner Dreehouse?
Yes.
Commissioner Summer Dumas?
Yes.
Commissioner Parks?
Yes.
Thank you. Better safe than sorry. Thank you for that. One last thing. So usually we start with the numbers related to the COVID-19 crisis in our community. Today, I'm going to end with the numbers. I just got a text from Greg Kesterman, the health commissioner in Hamilton County. So as of right now, we have 594 positive cases of COVID-19 in Hamilton County. 140 of those individuals have been hospitalized, and unfortunately, we have 27 individuals who have passed away in Hamilton County. And so I just want to say that all of this seems very surreal. I don't know about you all, but this seems very surreal to me. And we want to remind everyone that this is very serious. And while we are flattening the curve, in this together, my subliminal message for the day. But, you know, all that we are doing and all that the folks in the county are doing are helping flatten the curve and reduce deaths in Hamilton County. So just a reminder to continue to wash your hands, keep safe distancing, because what we're doing is saving lives. Commissioners, anything else for the good of the cause or any comments?
No, Madam President, I think you've said it all.
Thank you.
I agree. You said it all. Just, I hope that everybody takes care of themselves.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's good to see both of you.
Yes.
Safe and sound, and everyone else. So, all right, with that, I'm going to move that we adjourn.
Second.
Commissioner Dreehouse?
Yes.
Commissioner Summer Dumas?
Yes.
Commissioner Parks?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.